the for the no picture, I have no idea. I just can never figure out how to do it. But um, sorry about my voice if it sounds a bit off. I have had bronchitis for the past couple weeks. Um, but starting with our first project, I did my illustrator presentation on Chris Van Allsburg. He was the illustrator and writer behind a lot of childhood books. Two of my personal favorites happen to be Jumanji and The Polar Express. Growing up, I never really, I never knew that they were books. I knew that they were movies, and then learning that they were books after, I think really jump started my love for reading. I think he's a great illustrator. I think he made his books and his stories and his illustrations very kid friendly and kid accessible while still being very grown and very dreamy and very realistic. So I think he really put himself, and then he also really thought about um, kids equally. So I think he did a great job doing like what he loves, but then also for other people as well. Moving on to the um, first sort of assignment, the mind map discussions. I had to do this technique in another class as well. And I really think for the design process and even beyond the design process, I think it's a very helpful thing to do. It really just, gets the creative juices flowing and allows me to just jot some ideas down just to get a good base and a good look of where the direction I want to go in. I think it kind of just shows the big pictures and then the small details at the same time. For the thumbnail sketches, I chose my story on a Christmas Carol. Looking back now at these sketches, really I realized that I was very nervous about making mistakes, and so I used a very light pencil. I think I used like just a regular H graphite pencil, but I think I should have just maybe not jumped into a darker pencil, but used a variety. I think I could have, even with the sketches, I think I could have added a bit more detail and contrast. I think that would have really helped with the overall confidence, but just the quality as well. Let's see. And then moving on to the Fable story, the progress pictures, I remember watching the video where it was mentioned that we should use shapes and stuff, and shapes and basic shapes for the characters. And I think that really helped me with the intimidation that I had when drawing characters at first. I think it really just helped break everything down and allowed me to see um, the shapes of the body parts, and it helped me see how everything like connected and how everything flowed, and especially when like the characters interacted with each other, it just made things less complicated. And then going for the story update, I ended up taking those basic shapes and I put it into Procreate. Um, I feel like I'm more comfortable with digital illustrations, digital software, just because that's what I kind of taught myself at first. So, unfortunately, I think just jumping into that and skipping traditional art definitely hindered me quite a bit. But it was really interesting to see how everything fits in, like traditional art and digital art wise. Um, it definitely for me shouldn't be one or the other. I think I can integrate both techniques. Um, like I obviously, of course, traditional art techniques will help my digital art and vice versa. Um, but I think putting it into Procreate definitely helped bring my comfort level back up. So I think that's why I did some character designs in Procreate for that assignment. Looking at the final, excuse me, sorry. Looking at the final projects, I actually don't mind how they turned out. The top left one, I think, might might be my favorite. I think I really working with alcohol based markers, wasn't necessarily a struggle, but it's definitely a challenge. I think I could have used a wider array of shades just so the shading isn't so there isn't such a high contrast between the lighter grays and the darker grays. I think I could have used more in between to kind of blend more. For the bottom left one, I think that one might be my favorite. I like the proportions towards the characters and the Christmas tree in the background. I think I would have flipped the direction that the characters are standing, so little Timmy is pointing at the tree and giving some direction and something to look at. And I think the biggest thing that I would redo, I don't know why it seems a bit off. Maybe I could have added more of like the neck for Ebenezer in there. That's why the head looks off. Definitely could have made the heads a bit bigger. So I would definitely go back and give that an extra bit of love and just made that a bit bigger just so the proportion isn't off. Because the head is quite smaller than the body and even Timmy's body. For the one on the right, I definitely think I could have again paid attention to the textures and the shading and the shadows and the highlights of the clothing especially. I think that's why this one falls so flat. Going back, I would probably use like a white gel pen to add some more highlights, but definitely wanting to pay attention to like the folds of the clothing. I definitely think that would have given more dimension. Moving on to the gesture drawings, I really had fun with this. I think just getting out of my head and drawing fast and quick and just like the basic lines definitely helped. I'm so sorry about my cats. Of course, they're so talkative right now. Sorry, excuse me. Um, but I love Avatar. I think choosing like an animation to draw from as well helped my line work a bit more since obviously animation has a bit more lines, strong lines, structured lines. I think drawing from that was pretty um so sorry, what's the word? Um I guess pretty obvious, like there's no going around it. It's just there. So nothing too difficult. Going to the next assignment with the character design for the comic book. It was interesting to do silhouettes. Um, I think, again, like the shapes, I think just doing the silhouettes broke down the character look and made it easier to imagine where everything went proportion wise. I think instead of just jumping in directly to drawing the character, just doing the basic shapes helped make everything look more even and proportionate. Going towards the black and white and the colored versions of the characters. Again, I think the black and white version, the black and white tones, just help keep everything a bit more basic and not as overwhelming. And you just see where you should put shadows more and where everything kind of falls into place. And then adding color was really fun as well. Kind of getting to choose their personalities a bit more. I was really nervous about the hair. I felt like hair was the most intimidating. Um, but again, just keeping those basic circles um, and kind of triangle shapes, I think really helped. I had really fun with this. It was definitely hard doing the environment, the idea that I had. It was just really, I think I had a lot of angles, like being on the boat and just having a lot of movement. It was kind of intimidating. Um, and then perspective has always been, I think, difficult. Just knowing where everything needs to end up, horizon wise. But I had fun with this. The final splash page as well, choosing the type style, and then taking the drawing and putting it into Photoshop, I believe, just to add certain lighting and just to make everything pop a bit more. Um, I definitely think I need to choose different paper. I know I got a lot of feedback about how uneven the colors were. Um, Maybe choose different and better quality colored pencils, maybe like oil based colored pencils instead. Um, I started working with oil based colored pencils, and I think a lot of it turned out like the just the quality. I think using higher quality pencils would have given a bit more even coverage of the color. And then what probably my favorite assignment was the armature. I worked with um, wire before in my design fundamentals 2 class. We worked with thicker wire then, and I made something on a much larger scale than this 7-inch sculpture. Um, but I already had the wire and I already had the tools, and I just used the previous knowledge. So it wasn't too difficult. I had quite a bit of fun with this. Um, Again, I think I would just maybe, because I know the spine into the legs was probably the hardest part. Um, Making sure he stood up straight, but then he had support and balance from his arms and legs was kind of hard. That's why his limbs are kind of close together in the final product. Just a lot of balance because he was very heavy. Adding the adding the excuse me, sorry, adding the aluminum foil on the left shows some of the aluminum foil. I placed a lot more, especially on the back, just so he would seem a bit fuller from the side and from the back. He seems quite skinny from the front. Um, so I think I would definitely add more clay to his belly area and less clay and less um, foil to his arms. But I had fun with his face and with his feet and with his scarf. I think using little details like that just made him extra cute. I think end up using a lot of clay softener to try and smooth out some of the fingerprints and the lumps. Um, but I think if I just warmed up the clay so it was a bit more malleable, I think it would have turned out a bit more, or even I don't I'm not sure, maybe just being more careful and maybe just using thinner pieces of clay. But I mean, the aluminum foil is just so lumpy, and I haven't worked with clay before, so I wasn't really sure how to proceed. But I definitely used a lot of oil to make him soft. Um, but that one was fun. I definitely think I would work on the proportions of the lower body a bit more though. And that's it So thank you so much.